What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk on Markets, powered by PodDecks, fueled by Go Fuel. Once again, join me on the show on his monthly invitation is Blaine Spencer, host of the Final One Two Sports Pod, and one half of JT and the Don. JT, what's up, fellas? How we doing tonight?
Good, man. Thanks for having us on. I will add, I'm the worst half, so I apologize. You only get me, but hey, man, you got to deal with the hand that you've been dealt.
Honestly, I'm just humbled that I've made it back after another month of being let go off of Go Talk with Marcus, because it's a flip of a coin whether or not I get the invite every month. So,
well, you're in your bed right now, so I mean,
we didn't have to admit that to the people right now. Come on.
But I think we need to tell the people why you're only invited on for 1 month at a time.
Hey,
and that's one of the reasons why is
don't shame him. Hey, as somebody who used to do the show in his bed, I feel you. You're comfortable. That means he's gonna have fire takes. His perspective is gonna be amazing. Like he's comfortable. Like you want your guests to be in the zone like this.
You're giving him way too much credit.
Look, I'm supporting you, man. I've been there. Trust me. Some of those fire takes come from the bed.
If Blaine doesn't give me a fire take tonight, we're gonna have a problem. If you're comfortable in your bed and you don't give me a fire take, we're gonna have a problem.
Marcus is just frustrated that he actually had to give me the monthly invite. That's what he's more salty about than me actually sitting in my bed doing this show.
The well ran dry this week. He's not wrong. They weren't.
It was supposed.
So we're the C-list invites. Oh, we definitely gonna mess up your show,
first
man.
Of all, JT, I've been trying to get you and Don on the show for the last 3 weeks. Blaine, we were supposed to do the show last week, but I got sick, and then
honestly, I thought that you were just like, you know what, he ain't worth the time.
No. I got sick. I had a really bad cold. There's something going on. I got a cold from one of the
protocols, man.
One of the big-headed kids from school, from where I work, probably. But that's the other thing. There's a lot to talk about, and the context of this show has changed a lot from Monday when I put the show together until last night when I sent Blaine and JT the topics. This is a football show. We are going to talk football, but there is one thing that transcends football that is worth discussing that we're going to talk about before we get into all the football. And that is after 294 very, very, very long days, Brittany Griner, WNBA superstar Brittany Griner has made it back home from Russia, from the penal colony that she was in. We don't have to get into all the details if you guys don't want to, but if you guys have any thoughts on Brittany Griner being brought home, you guys can share as you'd like.
Oh, I thought we were getting into the details, but
I'm not gonna read down all the details, but if you guys want to talk about the details, you can.
So you want just an overall reaction to her being brought back home is what you're asking?
Whatever your thoughts on the situation are, you can share.
I guess I'll go first. Obviously I'm happy that she's back. I mean, I know there's different rules that people have to follow in different countries, but I think everyone can agree sometimes the punishment doesn't match the crime. So in that aspect, I'm glad she's home. I do think that people are upset about the whole, we went over there and we swapped her for, an arms dealer. That's not a fair trade. I see a lot of people saying, we traded a big for a shooter, which I think is crazy. But, I want people to understand. I don't think they understand how trades work, like on an international level. Yeah, we gave up somebody, but they really let Brittany Griner go because she doesn't really pose a threat to them. Whereas I know that one of the big issues was there's a former, I think it's a Marine, Whalen is still over there. He's been over there for a while. And they were kind of like, hey, why couldn't we negotiate to get him home? And from what I've read, it's more of like, look, it was either Griner is the deal or nobody's coming home. So if you can get a chance to get somebody home, you got to take that. But unfortunately, it was only her. And I feel like I want people to understand why they probably let Griner go and not this other guy. He has intelligence. They consider him a threat if they let him go. So that's probably why they were not as, easily ready to let him go in the deal with Griner. And then also on the other end where people are talking about the arms dealer. Yeah, it's terrible that he's out, but I just don't want there to be this fake outcry for we let an arms dealer go. The biggest arms dealer in the world is the U.S. So let's remember that. So I know it's not the best situation to let someone like that go, but I feel like everyone should be happy that at least, an American came home. So I'm just happy she's back. I think the whole situation has been unfortunate. And I just hope that, she can, get back on her feet and, get back to her, her normal life over here now that she's home.
Go ahead, Blaine.
I agree with JT. It's always a nice moment when we get American home. But I actually am one of those people that JT mentioned where it comes to releasing somebody that we release somebody that is like Vladimir Putin's like one of his like undercover operatives. They might not, so to speak it, but like I actually did a fair amount of research on this. Like this man has done so many different things for Russia that sometimes gets swiped under the rug. But again, like how JT said, it's great to be able to have the opportunity to get an American home. Brittany Griner, glad she's safe and everything like that. But it's honestly turned into an opportunity where, like JT said, like we're either getting Griner or we're getting nobody. So at that point, that you're not getting if you're looking at it like fairness, right? Not getting the fair end of the deal, so to speak, because like you're having somebody with like Whelan still in there, but you're getting the opportunity to bring at least somebody home, and you have to take advantage of that because it was either Griner or nobody. But we did release somebody that is honestly that has intelligence on us on the other side, right? So like the United States honestly didn't, like, so to speak, if you're comparing it based off of like how the country looks at it, right? We're potentially releasing some information that they know about us, but obviously we're bringing an American home, so like that outweighs how this is going to look into.
Yeah, and to add on to what he was saying, I feel like one of the points that I think I want people to understand is I want people to understand how trades work, like in international things like this. Like the reason they wanted this guy back, like, yeah, he's terrible. He's an arms dealer. His name is the Merchant of Death. But the reason is because like he has extensive experience and knowledge with Ukraine. Like they're in a conflict with Ukraine. So they're gonna go for the guy that they feel like can most help them at the time. It's like, hey, like we want this person back if you want Griner back. And for whatever reason you want to say, like political gain or whatever, Griner was, opportunistic for America to get back. But like you said, like it was either one or none. I wish both of them could have came back, but the guy that they did keep that was ours, like he's valuable to us too. So they're just not going to give him back willingly when they have somebody like Griner they can just cut loose that serves no purpose or no threat for, like international reasons.
This entire thing has been it's been like, I'm going to be honest. This entire thing has been annoying, and not for the reasons that people might think. Right, Brittany Griner coming home after being in Russia for 294 days, I think, is incredible, and it's definitely something to be happy about. Right, as not just as a fan of Brittany Griner as a basketball player, not just as a fan of not just as a avid fan and follower of the WNBA, but like as a human being. It is nice to see that another human being is being returned home to the country where she should have been all these days ago. My annoyance is with just the general public. We live in such a black and white society, right? And America specifically is very black and white. And I don't mean that like from a racial level, although of course it is on a racial level. But like we live in such like extremes, right? And I get it. Like the Paul Whelan, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But I can understand he's been in Russia for over 4 years. And as the story goes, he says he was over there in Russia for a friend's wedding. Russia believed that he was there spying on them, and that's why he's kept them, and he's been there all this time. But like up until Brittany Griner got released, there was no mention of Paul really in the general public and in the masses. Not that he was forgotten. Of course, his friends and his family that knew that he was over there, of course, still cared about him and still cared that he was there. But like generally, like when you go on Twitter and you go on a lot of these other places and a lot of these other social media places, like you didn't really hear excuse me much at all about Paul until it was announced that Brittany was released. And then you have a whole bunch of people come out of the woodwork saying, what about Paul, what about Paul, what about Paul, what about Paul? And I feel like we just live in this world where it's like we can't be happy about one thing without being upset about another thing, and like that's just not fair. Like we can live in a world, or at least I live in a world, where I can be happy that Brittany Griner is being brought home and has been brought home to her wife and to her loved ones and to her teammates and to all the people that care about her a lot within the WNBA community, with her own, her own personal family, and still want this ex-Marine who is currently still detained in Russia to come home, right? My happiness for Brittany Griner being brought home doesn't take away from any feelings I have towards Paul still being in Russia, still being detained. And I just got really annoyed yesterday, like going on Twitter and like going in like seeing conversations happen in Instagram comments and like in Twitter comments and in Twitter threads and even on TikTok of just like people being like, yeah, that's cool, but what about this guy? Like, it's like we can't applaud someone being brought home without magnifying someone else's suffering. Like, I feel like we're constantly in this pissing contest with like who's suffering more, and that's just, for me, it's exhausting and it's annoying, and it's like it's a really lazy thing to do and a truly inconsiderate thing to do. Like, Brittany Griner's been in Russia, been detained in Russia for 294 days. She's finally being brought home to her wife and to her mom and to her dad and to her siblings and to all these people that love her teammates and her coaches, the entire WNBA community of players and coaches and staff and fans. Like, all of these people are very happy that she's home, but then there's like this group of people over here that's like, yeah, that doesn't matter because there's this other guy that's still detained over there. And we didn't hear a peep about Paul Whelan being detained in Russia up until recently. Like, and I understand he was detained back when Trump was president and the Trump administration tried to get him back and it didn't work. And the Biden administration was actually trying to get him back as well. I read earlier today, they were trying to get him back as well and it hasn't worked. So it's not that people didn't know, but it's just, I just didn't like that Brittany Griner got brought home and all of a sudden it just became less about Brittany Griner being brought home and more about, well, what about this guy, Paul, who's still over there? And it's like, it just felt like people were trying to just, I don't know. I just didn't like it. It really rubbed me the wrong way. That's really the only comment that I have on it. Like,
but it's always been like that. Like, from the moment that this whole thing started with Brittany Griner, I feel like that's been the one consistent thing that I've seen is people was like, you know what, like, you do the crime, do the time. Like, not taking into account anything of like, does the punishment fit the crime? Not taking into account that other people have been in Russia, done worse than what she has done, and received little to no punishment. And it's like I just felt like the consistent message that I had seen was like, she's not important enough to do what's right. So that's what always didn't sit right with me, because it's like I hate this analogy, but it's true. Like, if LeBron was over there, like, this wouldn't even be a thing. Like, LeBron would be flying home first class. So it's like I just felt like this really showed how people feel about people like Brittany Griner, Black, female, part of the LGBTQ community. So like, it really just showed, like, people were saying the quiet part out loud, and I feel like that's the one thing that rubbed me the wrong way was like, people were telling on themselves. Like, I feel the same way about Brittany Griner being over there, and the punishment doesn't fit the crime, as I do about the Marine being over there. It's like, if he says he's not a spy, did he get due process to prove that? And if he's not, like, send him back. Like, it's this, you got to have compassion for everybody across the board. And I feel like that was the one thing I did not like, that it seemed that Brittany did not get that from the American people across the board. It's like, hey, like, she was over there. That could have been anybody doing that. And now she's in prison for 9 years, the harshest prison over there. Yeah. Like, no, but if you were over there, would you want people saying these same things about you? Like, oh, you did it, you got caught, you gotta serve the time. Or would you want people saying like, hey, that's not right, we're gonna do what we can and use diplomacy to get you back home? So I just wanted people to be consistent and have compassion.
I agree. And the one thing that I want to add in is, like, look at this, guys. Like, if this wasn't an athlete or a celebrity whatsoever, this would be so swiped under the rug. But because of how Brittany's wife, the WNBA, the whole sports world came together on this in the United States, like, if it was just like any of us, there's no way in heck that there would be no attention whatsoever. Like how Marcus said that, like, how Whelan or Whalen, however you say it, right? What, like, this was so, like, more indiscreet, or not indiscreet, discreet, sorry, right? And how these negotiations were unfolding, like, if there wasn't a public outcry, she'd probably be sitting there. But because of her stature and, like, how she unfolds in the sports world, regardless to say, like, how JT said, like, if this was LeBron, it'd be first class. But, like, even if just because she is an athlete and a public figure, If it was just like a regular citizen, this would not even be a discussion whatsoever, right? So,
and the last thing before we switch into the football, there are a lot of people that kind of looked at that and kind of hated that comparison of like if this was LeBron or Steph or KD, because it's like a lot of people look down on the WNBA. Like let's be perfectly clear about who Brittany Griner is. Brittany Griner is one of, if not the best players in the WNBA. Like she is a superstar. She
ever
is
like one of the most
ever.
dominant female players athletes I've ever seen. Like
100%.
she's
on that
freakish.
level.
She is so
Yeah.
freakishly gifted. Like people debated should
It's
she play in the
ridiculous.
NBA at one point, like coming out of college.
She is on that level of a LeBron and a Steph and a KD and a Giannis of being like she is a WNBA superstar. Not even one of, and I say one of because I'm biased to A.J. Wilson, but like let's call a spade here. Brittany Griner is the best player in the NBA or WNBA when she's healthy, when she's on the floor. She's a superstar. So the comparisons of if this was LeBron or if this was Steph or if this is KD, that's not an outlandish thing to say. They're on the same level. These are superstars at the top of their craft that if they were over there, it probably wouldn't have taken 294 days for them to come back, and maybe it would have, right? And we don't know that, but the fact remains that I think a lot of the lack of concern and a lot of the lack of care from the general public outside of the WNBA community and outside of Brittany Griner's immediate family, friends, and loved one is because a lot of people look down on the WNBA. And I think that this is a prime example of, again, like people not caring about other people or things that don't interest them. Is okay, let's say you don't watch the WNBA. Let's say you don't care about the WNBA. Brittany Griner's an American. She's an American person. She's a human being who was detained. And as JT said, was going to be forced to serve nearly a decade for having a vape pen like that. If we can't look at that and say that that's crazy to think that you're going to be in jail for almost 10 years for having too much, whatever it was, like that's absurd. That's asinine. It's inhumane. And it's ridiculous that there's a lot of people out there that just kind of like, yeah, well, whatever. It doesn't matter just because this is a black woman or just because this is a WNBA basketball player, just because this is a gay, like that's just, it's completely unfair. Like I said, the whole thing was annoying, but yesterday just really like the news of her coming home was great. And like you go on Twitter and like everyone connected to the WNBA was ecstatic. Dawn Staley, the head coach of the South Carolina women's basketball team, she's been talking about it from the beginning to the end. And she was on First Take today with Becky Hammond talking about it. Like it's a massive thing. It's a very massive thing for the people that care about the WNBA. And I feel like it shouldn't have been a thing that only people connected to the WNBA cared about. It should have been a thing that everyone cared about because there's someone that's over that's being wrongly detained and unjustly sentenced for a petty crime.
Yeah,
anyway,
comical. I'm sorry. It was just comical, the responses that people have given. Like they're like, oh, she should have did that. But I'm like, same people that are like saying like, oh, it's just that simple. Like I know people get on planes with CBDs and edibles, like things that people would do in everyday life. It's like you can't put yourself in that situation. They're like, oh, the arms dealer, but it's like you care about the arms dealer being out, but you don't have an honest opinion about like gun control. So it's just the whole thing is just comical. I feel like it made us look bad as Americans. It's like what side are you guys on? Like what point are you guys actually trying to make? So. Yeah, she's home. That's the most important thing.
Let's jump into some football. I'm actually going to rearrange the topics a little bit just because I want to get the college football stuff not out of the way, but I just want to talk some college football for a second. So the Final Four for the college football are in. It's Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. Alabama is out, which I'm not an Alabama hater, but I appreciate that Alabama's not in the college football playoff this year because they don't deserve it. So, Blaine, who do you think is going to win the national championship? Georgia, Michigan, TCU, or Ohio State?
Oh, give me the Georgia Bulldogs. It's because this team, regardless of what they lost last year, which was like, I think, some outrageous number on the defensive side of the ball. I think it was like 6 or 7 guys were drafted in the first like 3 rounds, something absurd, right? But this team, it never felt like they really fully got into gear this year. It almost felt like the Alabama teams of old. Like they put it in cruise control and they hit that extra gear when they needed to until these last couple weeks. They hit it. I can't remember which game it was. They hit it in the LSU game last weekend in the conference championship, putting up 50 on LSU. And I can't remember the other game this year that they played. It was another top matchup. But they've only really put it into full gear twice, and they've been absolutely dominant. If you look at the other 3 teams, Ohio State, other than beating Notre Dame, which is honestly isn't that good of a win really this year, haven't beaten anybody, and Michigan trounced them. And Michigan isn't even at full strength with Blake Corum out for the rest of the year. They're stud running back. Michigan, I don't really trust J.J. McCarthy at this point just because he's only shown glimpses. And for Michigan, they can't really get into that full gear, right? They're consistent. You know where their consistency line is, but the upside isn't as great as in Ohio State, so to speak, right? And then TCU, they've been playing with fire all year. They're a great story. They deserve to be in the playoff because if they were left out for Alabama or Tennessee, that would have been a huge uproar in college football based off of what the body of work that TCU put in. Because if you look at the numbers, TCU is the most qualified team out of the four technically to be in the playoff based off of strength of record, strength of schedule, strength of victories, etc. Right? And having your quarterback get hurt opening night, then you have your backup bring you the rest of the way. He's now won the quarterback of the year award, the Davey O'Brien. I would have to say Georgia over Michigan because Michigan versus TCU, I just don't see TCU falls behind too much, and against a Michigan team that loves to play with physicality, that's going to backfire on them. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs.
JT, who you got winning the 90th this year?
Why are we even talking about this? it should be how much will Georgia win these games by, and how much money should you bet on them to win these games? Like don't even talk about the other teams. Like you could have saved yourself a whole year, like instead of going through all these teams. It's Georgia, and it's Georgia by 10 miles. Like as long as Georgia has third string tight ends that are 6'8" that run a 4.4 and 30-year-old quarterbacks throwing slants to first round receivers, it's always going to be them. Like their defense is ridiculous. It's unstoppable. Like they're so packed with talent. Their coach is the best in the country. I think their program is the best in the country because the kids are talented, they're dominating, and they're having fun. And I think that's the biggest difference between why they're successful now and why Bama is taking a little bit of a step back is it's Kirby Smart and the way he's doing things, and he's got it rolling perfectly. Like I don't even think they should play the college football playoff just so these guys don't get hurt, just so people don't, take a chance and risk their pro careers. Because they're nobody's beating Georgia. I've never been in favor of just giving somebody a national championship without actually playing the game. But this might be a case. I think it's the best thing for both parties involved. You get what you want, and I get what I want, which is to keep my health and go to the league because I know I'm not going to beat this team. So, you should have threw this question out. This should have been easy. It's just Georgia. That's it.
Georgia's going to win. I am holding on to a little bit of hope that maybe we get Michigan versus Ohio State because I think that'd be really good. I think that'd be just good for ratings overall.
Ohio State has played nobody all year.
They're soft. They're soft. Ohio State is soft the way Michigan used to be soft, and Michigan is now tough, but they don't have Blake Corum, like you said.
I agree.
It's not close. TCU shouldn't even be there.
I'd like to see Michigan beat down on Ohio State again for a national championship. That's
all
I'm saying.
Who wants to see that, though?
I want to see that. Now,
I want to see Georgia pummel people by 50. That's what I want to see.
It'd be a 50-point game either way. You'd just rather see Georgia be on the winning end of it than Michigan. That's what it sounds like.
They need to cancel that thing. Cancel it until it's 12 teams. It should be Georgia wins every year until the amount of teams that go in the playoff goes up. It's not fair. You got Georgia playing against two
JT, it's not going to be fair if they go to 12 either.
It will be a little bit different because you got to play more games.
Yeah,
you got to play more games. But Ohio State, their stars are probably either going to put in half year opt out. Michigan's already banged up, and TCU is not at the level of these other three teams. So I'd rather see Alabama in there.
One of Ohio State's wide receivers, I can't think of his name at the moment. He's already opted out. So yeah,
because he never got healthy all year.
Yeah, he's been
he hasn't been playing all year. Let's talk about the other big piece of college football news that apparently has the entire sports world split. Deion Sanders, who is currently the head coach of Jackson State University, I think they have one more game. I don't know if they already played it or not. Will be next season the new head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. Had a very abrupt first meeting with the players. It just pretty much telling them, A, if you're not already in the portal, get in the portal. But B, also, there's a lot of change. And before we jump into that, and I get you guys thoughts, start with JT, I do want to say Colorado was a 1-11 last year. So the abruptness of Deion Sanders' arrival, I mean, I appreciate it. It's not like this is a good football team that has, I don't know. JT, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders leaving Jackson State to go to
Oh,
Colorado?
this is such a multifaceted question, man. So it really is, because there's a lot of conversations to be had. It's Deion, it's like his promise to the whole HBCU and like what his plan was to resurrect it. It's going to Colorado. It's Colorado being one of the most underfunded Power Five sports programs in the country by design, because they don't want to spend money on sports. So to the point where, I don't know if you guys remember, Mel Tucker used to coach there. He was there for 1 year. You know why? Because every coach who is anybody knows that Colorado is just not going to spend money on sports. Like, they've, behind the scenes, they've been openly known that that's a thing, that Colorado is just not a sports school anymore. And then for them to just jump back into this sweepstakes and just go all out for Deion Sanders is just baffling to me. So are we just going off like gut reactions here, or like you want segments of this?
No, just what is your overall? Where do you fall in the whole Deion going to Colorado thing?
So I'll break this down in a few ways I feel about it. With the HBCU part, I do feel like I understand why the HBCU community is mad, but I don't understand why you're surprised, because this is basically what he said he was going to do. He told the players when he got there, like, if a Power Five school comes knocking, I'm going to entertain it. And I don't understand why Deion is all of a sudden like one guy is supposed to be the savior of a community, when like every other coach is what they do. As soon as they get a better opportunity, they leave, no matter what they tell recruits, no matter what they tell the players, no matter what they tell the players' parents. So Deion doing what's best for him, I can't blame him for. But I do thank him, because he gave HBCUs the blueprint on how to build the programs to compete with PWIs. It's like, look, you need to hire guys like me and bring celebrity to HBCUs where these top recruits are going to follow. So if HBCUs don't pick this up and invest in that blueprint, then that's on them. So I can only blame Deion so much. Like, at the end of the day, he does have to look out for himself and his family. Like, he's done too many things at a discount rate. He took this job at Jackson State at a discount rate. The half of the salary that they paid him, he said, go ahead and spend it on your facilities and only pay me half. Like, he did the Prime Academy before. Like, he had how many years was he taking in recruits and mentoring them for nothing? So like, I think Deion has done enough for the culture, and he's given you guys the blueprint on how to do that, to where I feel like they should be happy for him moving on to something that's going to be financially successful for him. Now, the Colorado situation is interesting because, like you said, like, they're horrible, and it makes sense because they don't spend any money. And I know they're not paying him what I think he's worth. And it's a little odd to me that he would take that job knowing that he's not getting like the full compensation, because you're betting on yourself again. Like, if you fail at Colorado, which the analytics say it's likely that you do, like, where's the hype? Like, there's no more Deion hype. Like, who's going to hire you? Like, what's your next job? So I'm really interested to see how it goes, because everybody who's anybody is trying to transfer there. All recruits are flipping. Everybody's jumping in the portal to go play at Colorado. And I'm really interested to see how this goes. But conspiracy theory for me, and I'll probably talk about this next time we do our show, is I want to see how Deion handles this, because to what it seems like to me is Colorado is saying, we might not be able to pay you the salary that you would command in the open market, but we're basically going to let you run the whole show by yourself, which is code word for saying you are above the boosters, and anything that you want to do here, you got the green light. So if he does that and that is successful, that's a big deal, because guess what? That is a big deal for college football and Black coaches getting big jobs and also getting total control of programs, which we don't usually see. And when you start looking at schools like the SEC, where boosters are a huge part of the culture, and let's put it this way, Nick Saban is not even above the boosters, despite all his greatness. So if you got somebody like Deion going to a non-SEC school, running the whole show over the boosters, and he's successful, winning games, getting all the recruits, getting all the accolades, getting all the press, I think it's going to really shift the way that Power 5 programs, one, hire coaches, who they hire, what kind of control they give them, and also the role and control that boosters will have in programs. So a lot is on the line for Deion with this Colorado job, because if he is successful, like, it's going to be a seismic shift in the way that programs are run. And I feel like this is a direct threat to how the SEC does business. And if Deion can change that, I think it's positive for college football all the way around.
Blaine, how do you feel about Deion being the new head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes?
I am actually extremely intrigued by it. And these are the reasons. JT's laid out a lot of them, right? When he took the Jackson State job, Jackson State was probably nowhere in the condition that Colorado's in now, right? But you can see that he's at that mentality that he wants to rebuild programs, right? He was in the discussion last year for the USC job. He was in the discussion for the Oklahoma job. Like, these are big Power 5 schools. And he said, no, not a chance. He took himself out of that picture, went back to Jackson State. Now has them undefeated before they take on North Carolina Central in their massive bowl game, so to speak. And now he's taking on a whole completely different challenge. And like JT said, it feels like he's trying to change the landscape of how college football operates by now getting, honestly, the full reins. Colorado has now put in, based off the reports, a lot of money that they said that they were going to try to avoid by being able to open up these opportunities for their scholar athletes. So this is, you can see how Deion's trying to operate it. And I feel like he also took a look at how the college football landscape is changing, right? This is huge for the Pac-12 because it's going to be, once again, the Pac-10. USC and UCLA, they're gone. They're going to the Big Ten. It honestly looks like Oregon's right behind them, potentially changing the fold. You also have to look at a landscape. This is an opportunity for Colorado to potentially backdoor themselves into that new top 12 discussion in not 2024, but in 2025, right? That how college football is changing with the top tier schools in their conference leaving. So I think this is a unique component. I love how Deion approached it in his introductory thing. Like, it wasn't his intention to tell them to enter the portal. The true intention behind his message was that if you guys aren't 110% committed, like I'm going to be to the program, I want you in the portal. I don't want you here at the University of Colorado because there is going to be change. There's going to be competition. I want to change the whole landscape of everything that is operating in Boulder. So this is a great opportunity to how Deion's trying to operate in college football. I know, unfortunately, for the HBCU side of it, it's a major hit because now you're going to look at how Jackson State tries to honestly rebuild now, because it seems like at least a handful of Jackson State players have entered the portal and are going to follow Deion to Colorado. So if you look at both spectrums of it, you're seeing the HBCU side of it as an unfortunate opportunity that you would think Deion was going to maybe try and rebuild the whole HBCU community, not just at Jackson State, but as a whole. But if you look at the Colorado angle of how Deion's been operating, he's now become a coach that's looking to rebuild programs and bring them back to prosperity. And that's why I think it's an intriguing opportunity to how this unfolds, especially with now USC and UCLA, and now potentially as Oregon's also in that discussion to leave the Pac-12, that maybe they're going to backdoor Colorado now with these moves for a potential college football playoff opportunity when this new 12-team format goes into place.
I want to add two more things to you. One, I think you need to read between the lines on Deion. He wasn't saying, "Oh, if you guys can't hack it," he was saying, "Get your ass out of here. Like, y'all not good enough. Like, I got real players that are coming in here that y'all not gonna play." So at least he was honest with them. And I will say this one more thing about the HBCU situation is, let's be honest, HBCUs have struggled with athletics and funding before Deion got there, and he's not the reason why they're gonna fail going forward. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, like Deion was the savior and he just didn't get it done. He left us high and dry, even though his messaging made it seem like he was, because he said
Correct.
God called him to this. So that he sold him a little bit, but it's like HBCUs have had these issues with funding and athletics before, and unless they take the blueprint that Deion gave them, they're gonna have them after. So I really can't be mad at him. Like, he got you guys all kind of national publicity, showed you guys the way. He got College Game Day to come there. College Game Day. They won't even come to Canes games. Like, just think about that. They got College Game Day to come to an HBCU. Like,
that's because the Canes don't know how to play football. Let's be honest, though. On that,
that's
point.
Another topic for another day. If it was any other season, I would get back and we'd be arguing. But they suck, and I hope all the players from the Canes get in the portal. They can't go to Colorado. Like, we need Deion to come. Deion need to come give that same message he gave to them Colorado players, to the Canes players, because they are the same people. But I just feel like for the HBCU, I hope that the Black successful people that have the means, whether they're entrepreneur, business people, entertainment, sports, like, they look at what Deion did as like, you know what, this is something that we want to invest in, and that is what is going to keep what he started going. But it just can't, like, even if he did stay at Jackson State, like, that wasn't gonna make this massive movement. Like, people have to get behind it and spend money and capital. Like, that's the difference between HBCU and PWIs when it comes to athletics. It's funding. Like, unless you're funded, you're not going to be successful.
Oh boy, this is another thing that really annoyed me. I don't know how this kind of turned into a show where there's like a bunch of stuff that annoyed me. There's a couple other things in the show that kind of
you came up with the list. I mean,
I did, but then no, I did. You're right, I did. I was, Deion going to Colorado again. It should be a thing, man. Happy for Deion. Best of luck in your future endeavors, bro. Like, let's see you go do more great things. Instead, Deion's a sellout. Instead, somehow this has turned into a black-white thing. Instead, this has turned into an HBCU versus PWI thing. I just can't. Deion Sanders said to his players, and I feel like, again, maybe we should start reading in between the lines more before we start saying things. Deion Sanders, one of the first things he said before he actually said to his players he was leaving to go to Colorado, he said, in coaching, you either get terminated or you get elevated. Like, I feel like that in and of itself, to most people, should be enough of like, maybe there's more to the story than just Deion's leaving. Like, because let's be honest, Deion enjoyed being at Jackson State. Deion was having fun at Jackson State. Deion brought a lot of prosperity to Jackson State. He was there for 3 years, led them to their first undefeated season. They were back-to-back SWAC champions. Like, they were playing a lot of great football down there in Jackson State under Deion Sanders. And somehow Deion's a sellout now because he's going to Colorado. Right now, again, to JT's point, if you want to sit here and you want to say that the delivery of how God called him to the HBCU and to kind of be the savior of the HBCUs, if that's your issue, I have no beef with you there, because that's a very rose gold.
That is the most Bobby Bowden sales pitch. Like that is something that Bobby Bowden would do, and it makes sense that Deion went to FSU, because Bobby Bowden would go to somebody be like, God sent me here to eat this food and recruit your son, and they would eat that shit up. And like, hey, he's a salesman. Like, I get it, but come on, with our community, you can't be using God, because they like, hey, look, God means forever.
Better stay. So like, if that's your beef, I'll give you that. But like, here's the thing, like, Deion Sanders took half his salary and like donated it. Said, you know what, use this to better the facility. Right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure you guys were probably raised the same way. Like, I was raised in a manner like you leave things better than you found it. Deion Sanders didn't just leave Jackson State better than he found it. He left Jackson State better than it probably ever has been, or likely ever will be now that he's gone. Like, Deion in 3 years did a lot for Jackson State. And if Jackson State loses publicity, if HBCU college football teams as a whole lose publicity, that's not Deion's fault. That's ESPN's fault. That's the people that cover these games' fault for not continuing to keep that same energy, that same recognition, that same publicity around HBCU football teams, HBCU college football programs. If College Game Day never goes back to an HBCU, is it possible that it's because there's no Deion? Yeah, but it's not Deion's fault if College Game Day never goes to another HBCU college football game. It won't be Deion's fault if College Game Day doesn't go down to FAMU or doesn't return to Jackson State or doesn't go down to North Carolina Central or some of these other, like, what has happened is, and again, a part of this is Deion's fault because he did kind of dub himself as the savior of HBCU college football, right? What's going to happen is if HBCUs and college football programs for HBCUs fall off the map, everyone's going to look at Deion and say, see, this is all Deion's fault. And we always do this. We always hold the wrong person accountable. It is not Deion's fault if we never see another HBCU college football game on national TV. It's the national TV. It's the people. It's ABC and Fox and ESPN. These people, I don't know if a lot of people know this. These networks at the beginning of every college football season, they actually get together and they bid on these games. Like they sit down and they try to figure out who goes where. Now, some of the conferences have agreements of exclusivity with some of these networks, right? But there are other games that are kind of bid on, right? It's the same thing with the NFL. It's the same thing with the NBA. Like there are certain games that are exclusive to these networks, and then there are other big games that are negotiated between the networks to say, we want this game, you get this game, we want this. So like if that never happens and we never see Jackson State versus FAMU, or we never see Central versus Hampton, or whatever the case may be, that's not on Deion. That's on these networks. Deion Sanders, I think, I love the timing of this from Deion because it gives him a year to kind of get his footing, figure out what he wants to do with Colorado, get this recruiting class in. And then in 2024, like you guys were saying, well, that 12 team college football playoff kind of rolls around. He'll have another year of recruitment to kind of get this team to be where this is. Look, if you guys are expecting the Colorado Buffaloes to be a top 4 team in the nation, it's not going to happen. It's just not, because there are still teams like Michigan out there. There's still teams like Georgia out there. I assume Alabama will kind of get back to Alabama being Alabama, and they'll be obviously in the conversation. If this seems any indication, Tennessee is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the top 4. If they can kind of stay afloat and stay consistent and win the big games and not beat up on the bad teams and struggling to the good teams. But Colorado is going to be a top 12 team in football, I would say, as soon as 2024. I think that's a fair thing to say. Maybe not. Maybe like Blaine said. Maybe
depends if
how
Shadur is a Power 5 quarterback. Right. Like that's the other thing.
There are a lot of things that go into this, but here's the other thing, and here's something that I don't think, and JT, you kind of touched on this. Here's something else that I think is kind of lost in all the sauce. Every year in the NFL, what's the one thing we always talk about in the NFL? It's the lack of African-American head coaches. It's the fact that all these other guys like Eric Bieniemy and Greg Roman and all these African-American head coach, OCs and DCs and prison coaches or whatever, they get overlooked for guys like Jeff Saturday and guys like Joe Judge and guys like Matt Patricia or Josh McDaniels, like all these guys that are Nathaniel Hackett, guys that are clearly bad at being a head coach. Here we have an African-American head coach who, granted, he's a former NFL player, sure, he's Hall of Fame, but this is an African-American head coach who is now a Power 5 head coach. And he's still like, how many African American Power 5 head coaches are there that are not just there, but are like given the keys to the kingdom the way that Deion is about to be given the keys to the kingdom?
Take it a step further. Like how many black coaches could take the path that Deion just did? Because here's another thing that's a big issue. I don't know one coach that could coach at the HBCU level for 3 years and then just jump to a Power 5 head coaching job. Like that will never happen. You ask any coach, anybody that has coaching experience at the HBCU level, they will tell you when you go to a PWI institute, basically them credits do not transfer on your resume. So if anything, like they should be excited. It's like, look, this man went from HBCU straight to Power 5 as a coach, not a coordinator, not a recruiting specialist, not like none of that. Like he went straight from the man to running the show at a Power 5. If anything, if I'm an HBCU and I'm not gonna take the road of, all right, the funding is the way, I'm gonna make sure that these coaches, like these offenses, are putting up ridiculous numbers. Because guess what? If Deion is successful, they're gonna be like, all right, let's go look at Jackson State. Who's there now? What's the offense look like? Oh, they're putting up numbers. Let's see if we can bring this guy in. Like that is the thing that I think that if you're looking at it from the non-monetary perspective of how people can be successful, is what you just said, which I didn't think about, is this could be a way to elevate the lack of black coaches and get them some of them opportunities that maybe they would never get. When you're dealing with things like nepotism and things at the PWIs, now you can maybe say like, hey, like if I'm doing good at this HBCU, like now they're looking at me, considering me for these Power 5 jobs. So that's a good point. I think that's something that's being underlooked and you might not appreciate until maybe like 5-6 years from now, depending on if Deion is successful.
Because here's the other thing too that I think I did just baffle me, and I get it, it's from HBCU to Power 5, but like every year we always kind of hear rumblings of maybe 1 or 2 college football coaches maybe ending up in the NFL. right? Like before the Cowboys hired McCarthy, it was like Lincoln Riley was kind of like in the talks to maybe go to Dallas, right? We obviously saw Urban Meyer make the jump from college football to the NFL. Like, I don't understand why it's like Kirby Smart has been in conversations a couple of times to maybe make the jump from Georgia to the NFL. Even though Nick Saban says he's never going to do it because he did it once before and it didn't end up. Like Nick Saban is always like, maybe they should go call Nick Saban, right? Like we do this all the time. And I know he was already obviously in San Fran and he went back down to Michigan, but like Harbaugh, there are teams in the NFL right now who has Harbaugh's name at the top of their list just in case he changed his mind and wants
Chip Kelly's about to be in the same boat.
Chip Kelly is in that same boat, and he was another guy that left from college football to go to the NFL. So it's like it always baffles me how we don't really say anything. We don't have any outrage, we don't have any uproar when we see if you want to make it a black-white thing, let's make it a black-white thing. We have no uproar when a white college football head coach wants to make the jump from Power 5 to the next level, which is the NFL. But we've got a guy in Deion Sanders who's an NFL Hall of Famer. He's a college football Hall of Famer. He's one of the best players ever stepped foot on the football field. He's done great things in 3 years for Jackson State, and now he's making the jump from HBCU to Power 5. And all of a sudden, he's all these bad things, and he's a sellout, and he's forgotten about black people. Here's the deal: if you were Deion Sanders and a Power 5 school knocked on your door with what is being reported to be 10, possibly 15 times the amount of money that this HBCU is paying you, you're going to take that. Like, say what you want. It's so easy to criticize someone when you're not in their shoes, like we were talking about earlier with it's so easy to criticize Deion because we're not Deion. But, like, let's not forget, Deion has not one, not two. He has 3 kids. He has 3 kids that are in college. That now, granted, they're on athletic scholarships, I'm quite sure, but like there's still a lot of money that has to be paid. Like there's still money that goes into raising. He still has a family to feed. He's got kids to raise. Like this isn't just a simple like, oh, we've all got promoted. I've been promoted most recently, Blaine. I'm sure you've been promoted before. JT, I'm like we've all gone through promotion. We've all had the opportunity to get promoted. No one's ever said, I'm not going to take this job because it's more money because I'd be leaving all my guys down here on the 2nd floor to go to the 5th floor. That never happens. Deion does that, and it's this big thing. HBCU football, college football matters. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I think HBCU college football is just as good as Power 5 football. It's good football. Football is football to me. I sit down, I watch anybody play football. Like, football is football to me. But we shouldn't look at Deion and say now that he's leaving, if HBCUs lose notoriety, it's Deion's fault. We're holding the wrong person accountable is all I'm saying. And if Deion, and I don't think he will, but if Deion makes the jump from the Pac-12 or what will be, I guess, the Pac-10 to the SEC, are we going to do this again? We're going to get mad at Deion for leaving Colorado to go coach the SEC football team?
We will.
And that's unacceptable because that's how stuff works. Like, that is how Deion's right. In the world of head coaching, you either get promoted, you either get brought back for a long-term deal with a lot more money, or you're getting fired. And him saying that should let all of us know that Jackson State, it seemed as if, had no true interest in paying Deion more money to come back or at least extending his deal. Deion wouldn't have said that if there wasn't any truth to it.
And that's what really pisses me off about the sellout part, because it's like, okay, when I'm trying to do what's best for me, if you don't like it, I'm a sellout. But why aren't you going to Jackson State and being like, well, how dare you not find the funding to keep this man? Like, why are you not going to other HBCUs? Like I don't get it. Like, HBCUs literally have a free pool, not free, but like a discounted pool of coaching options that can make them successsport. Like, go look on TV. Go look on any sports show on any major network. There is the next Deion Sanders for every sport. Every sport. Like, it's not just Deion. Like, look at Penny Hardaway. Like, look what he's doing at Memphis. Like, you think Penny Hardaway was the highest paid coach? They had to pay him Matt Rule money to come in and coach? No, but guess what? They brought him in, and what's the first thing that happened? Start getting major players. Wiseman, all these big-time recruits. Not Shaden Sharp, but forgot the guy's name. But they're getting all these major recruits, and that's why I feel like HBCUs need to be honest with themselves. It's like, do you want to take the academic route, and that's what you want to focus on? If that's it, I'm cool with that. But say that. Sure. But if you really want to play this athletics game, you got to be willing to play it. Like, go get you a Shannon Sharp. Go get you a Hugh Jackson. Like, go get some of these guys that have played in the NFL that really want to coach, or that are coaching on other staffs where they're not getting promoted. Like, there's guys with NFL experience on the pro and college staffs that I'm pretty sure are there because they are great recruiters that are not getting the opportunity to move up. That if you bring them to an HBCU, they're going to get the recruits, and you're going to be able to see their talent, and you're not going to have to pay them Matt Rule type money to get them in the door. So,
And
like, I wish people would blame the institutions for not really being dedicated to sports rather than calling Dion a sellout for trying to provide for him and his family. Like, I don't get that. That's wrong.
Who's the
Don't
wide
hate the
receivers
player,
coach?
hate the game.
Who's
Don't
the wide
hate the
receivers
player,
coach
hate the game.
in Indianapolis? Is it
Reggie Wayne?
Reggie Wayne. I bet if a HBCU calls Reggie Wayne tomorrow and Reggie Wayne is really serious about being a head coach and Reggie Wayne takes that job, the recruiting class goes through, at least especially from a wide receiver standpoint, there's gonna be a lot of wide receivers that want to go play for Reggie Wayne.
You brought up the Canes. I see Ed Reed on the sideline not doing shit for every game. Like, if I am Hampton, if I'm A&T, if I am Jackson State, shoot, you just had an all-time great DB. Go get Ed Reed. Y'all gonna get recruits.
Exactly.
You don't think kids want to play for Ed Reed? Like, come on, man.
Come on now.
Like, I don't like. The thing is, we don't want to admit it. I'm gonna say it. We don't care about sports, and this is our parents, and I get it to a certain extent. Our parents have always tried to push the mantra of sports can't be the end all be all. You know, you got to get an education is important, which I understand. But at some point, you got to encourage people to get the bag. And if the bag is sports, that you can't be shamed for that. And if you're good at sports, let's find out how we can do that better and get to that bag. So, look, man, if I'm an HBCU, I'm going to get somebody
like 4 months ago.
Say what?
He just got it. Steph Curry just got his college degree a couple months ago, like right after they won the finals. Like it, just because I'm good at basketball and I go to school to go basketball and I hit the league doesn't mean I still can't get that degree. Larry Fitzgerald made it to the NFL, and his one promise to his mom was, I'm going to graduate. Larry Fitzgerald, not too long ago, maybe within the last 10 years, got his degree, and he was in the league for years. Like, it's not the end-all, be-all. Like, it is.
And it's not what it once was. Like, degrees aren't what they once were. It's not like, oh, if I get a degree, I'm going to get a six-figure job. Like, no. Like, there's plenty of people that have degrees that can't support themselves. Like, and these athletes have the ability to support not just them, but generations of people. Like, that messaging has to change.
Without question, you got to secure that bag. And at this point, how the degree works, your degree just gets you in the front door to be even looked at for a job at this point. Yeah, it's not how this looks.
Doesn't guarantee you the job.
Connections get you the job.
And when you think about it too, there's like a bunch of people who have a degree in one thing and are doing something completely different from what their degree is in. Like that
I can burn my degree right now.
I've got a couple friends that are in accounting and economics, and I'm like, that is nothing that you do.
Yeah, you didn't go to school for what you're doing right now, but it happens. Like it is what it is. So let's talk some NFL. We've got two quarterbacks that have suffered an injury this season. Jimmy G's likely done for the season with a broken left foot, I believe it is. And Lamar Jackson has a sprained PCL, so he will not be suiting up to play the Ravens game against the Steelers. It will be Tyler Huntley. Both of these quarterbacks, I would say more so Jimmy G, of course, than Lamar, are probably going to be done for the season. So which team can stay afloat in the playoff hunt? Because both of these teams are firmly in the playoff picture in their respective conferences. We'll start with you, Blaine.
49ers. And I don't think it's really that difficult of a question because of how deep the 49ers are around the quarterback position. I mean, the quarterback position was their issue. We didn't know what we were going to get from Trey Lance. We didn't know what we were going to get from Jimmy G. Now it's just Brock Purdy, right? And then if you're looking at a Ravens perspective, they live, breathe, and die based off of how Lamar Jackson plays. I mean, Tyler Huntley, don't get me wrong. He is I would argue that he deserves an opportunity to be an NFL starter. I would make that argument. But based off of how the Ravens have committed to evolve their offense around Lamar Jackson and how their defense has been extremely suspect, especially in second halves, more or less the fourth quarter, you don't know. There's no guarantees with Baltimore when they're in front. The San Francisco 49ers have allowed 7 points in their last 4 games, second half. 7 points. And that was 1 touchdown by the Miami Dolphins. They absolutely shut down a team that was red hot offensively when Tua's back there. I mean, the other 3 games were against, you would say, mediocre offenses, so to speak, based off of their records. But when you have Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, you have Deebo Samuel on the offense side of the ball, and when you see what Brock Purdy did last week, it wasn't that far off from what Jimmy G was providing. No offense to Jimmy G. He's a proven winner when he's in the lineup. That's because Kyle Shanahan knows how to run an offense that suits his quarterback and puts his weapons in the best position to be successful. You saw it last week. Brock Purdy got the ball out fast, was able to get McCaffrey the ball, get Deebo the ball, got Kittle the ball. He always put Purdy in a position to be successful. So if there's going to be a team that's going to be successful, I don't even think this is really a difficult question. It's the 49ers, and it's really not even close, so to speak.
Go ahead, JT.
I like how you gave us like these one-liner questions. Like you said, this is simple. Which one of these teams drafted a quarterback in the top 3? 49ers. So that tells you that they think they could do it without Jimmy G. Like, it's easy. Like, I feel like most competent backup quarterbacks can step into the system and win a game. So it's the 49ers. Ravens, like you said, like they really haven't put enough pieces around Lamar for them to be successful, much less be successful when he's not there. Like, I do agree. I like Huntley. I think he's nice. I do think he deserves a shot in the same way like I thought Tyrod Taylor deserved a shot. And I think he can do something very similar if he gets that opportunity. But like Lamar is out there throwing the punt returners and they're trying to call him wide receivers. So you take Lamar out of that and now you just got punt returners running around with Tyler Huntley. Like, this is a really bad situation. This is what happened last year. They were number 1 seed in the AFC. Lamar goes down. They suck. So, yeah, 49ers, I even hear people saying that Brock Purdy could win them a Super Bowl. Like, does that mean Brock Purdy is Brady? Yeah, go look. Everybody's saying
no. I know. I'm just saying I refuse to agree with that.
But it's not him. It's not Brock Purdy. What they're saying is Kyle Shanahan and like Blaine said, it's Kittle, Deebo, all these guys. McCaffrey can win them a Super Bowl. So, yeah, only thing with Lamar is I feel bad, and this is one of the things I worried about coming into the season. I feel like the Ravens didn't want to pay him, and they wanted this to exactly happen. We don't want to pay him. We don't want to pay him because we hope he gets hurt, so we can say like, see, that's why we didn't pay him because he gets hurt. And it's like, I hate that for him. If you don't want him, just say it and just send them out to the free world and see what happens. Like,
but at this point, the unfortunate thing for the Ravens, because it's because of their own doing. They can't afford to let Lamar Jackson go, and it's not just because Lamar Jackson is a superstar caliber quarterback, and they won't be.
Oh yes, he is. Watch your mouth, young man.
No. I'm saying it's not just because of that.
We're not saying bad things about Lamar. I know it's your show, but you got the Packer rules. We cannot talk bad about Lamar.
No, I'm not talking bad about Lamar. It's not just because Lamar's a superstar. It's because they've done like. If you let Lamar Jackson go, then essentially what you would be doing is you would be letting go everything that you've done over the last. How long has he been in the league? 4 years now. These last 4 years of Ravens football, it does seem longer. But these last 4 years,
but is it that? Is it that, or is it that you risk basically giving up on everything that you built, or is it that? Today's NFL, and as soon as he ends up with some offensive-minded coach on another team, he's going to take off and look really good and dispel all the myths that people are saying about him because he plays in Baltimore. I feel like this is more about them not wanting to look stupid and incompetent about building a team than them saying like, oh, well, we don't want to just get rid of all this hard work. Because trust me, if they had an opportunity to draft a Justin Herbert, Lamar would be gone. Like, it wouldn't even be a debate.
When I say them not having the hard work, I mean is like if we spent 4 years, right? And I wasn't one of these people. There were a lot of people that's like, can Lamar Jackson's style of play lend itself to a championship? Over these last 4 years, the Ravens haven't even sniffed an AFC championship game. They haven't even made an appearance in the AFC championship game. So essentially what the Ravens would be doing if they just let Lamar Jackson go is they'd be admitting defeat, and then they'd have to start from scratch and build an entirely new offense. Because what they've done is they built this offense under the pretense of having a quarterback back there who can be effective with their legs. Let's say they go draft a quarterback who's not effective with their legs. Well, now they have to revamp the entire offensive mindset. And they tried to do this whole, they tried to do this whole, we'll just invest in the defense. But the defense sucks. This defense has not been good. This defense has been terrible this season. It's like they don't even have that crutch to fall on. This has been a really incompetent build of a franchise for
But this
these
is
last 4
but
years.
here's
And
the
they
thing,
can't
like,
let
why are
they
you
can't let
shocked?
this go.
Like, this is what happens when
No,
you
I'm not
lose
shocked.
one of the greatest GMs of all time. Like,
Yeah.
he gave them a gift. He gave them an MVP quarterback. That was his parting gift. And
That was his
they
parting gift. And they
it's like
ruined it.
the rich father handing the keys of the business over to his dumbass son, and he just runs it into the ground. Like, that's not on Lamar Jackson. Like, if anything, Lamar has kept people employed that should be fired. Like,
Should be fired.
Harbaugh, I like him. He should be fired. Like, Lamar saved this job once, and it's like, I really do disagree with you. I think it's because they don't want to look dumb on how they've handled the Lamar situation. Like, players have said it. They have not built around him. Like, the scheme is not good. He has made them way more successful, and I feel like the running thing is just a trope, and we know that because the guy up in Buffalo running way more, taking way more hits, and it's like he ain't won shit either, and he already got the bag, and nobody's talking about that. So I don't want to hear about this. Oh, like, can his style of play sustain his career? Because, like, if Josh Allen is not getting questioned and he's out there like trying to run over Aaron Donald, then I know Lamar can make it because Lamar's not getting hit like that. At least not while he's running. Like, all his injuries are him in the pocket.
Yeah.
So the Ravens have fumbled this, and they just don't want to look stupid. And I get it. Or maybe it's some of that, and we just did this with Flacco, and look how long it took us to get back to this point now that we're at.
Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys, who, since Dak's returned from his injury early in the season, they've been 5-1. Their only losses come to the Philadelphia Eagles, who I think a lot of people would say, or at least a strong handful of people would argue that are the best team in football. So aside from their loss to a lot of people who consume the best team in football, the Dallas Cowboys have been a lights-out football team. They scored 33 points in the fourth quarter against the Colts the other night on Sunday Night Football. They've been playing amazing football. OBJ's visited with Dallas, and they have concerns about his ACL because they don't like what his physical look like post ACL. Can the Dallas Cowboys? Okay, I'll put it like this: is OBJ to Dallas? Is that a want or is that a need as it pertains to Dallas's hopes of winning a Super Bowl this season? JT.
Well, the whole OBJ thing, like, you asking the wrong person because I never thought he was going to play this year. Like, it's just physics. Like, how do you tear your ACL in January and then you're supposed to be like the hottest free agent by September or October? Like, that never made sense to me. I never thought he would play. So, like, when everybody's like, oh, like, everybody's fighting for OBJ, I was like, do they not have doctors and like medical professionals on their staffs? Like, that just don't make sense to me, especially for a receiver. So I think OBJ is irrelevant, like, as a signee, because I just don't think he's going to be ready. And like, now you're seeing Dallas is like kind of backing out of it because they're like, his medicals ain't matching up to him being ready, even though he says he is. So I just never thought he would play. Like, the ACL injury was like too frequent to go.
Can they make the playoffs? Not they'll obviously make the playoffs. Can they make a run at the Super Bowl this season as constructed? Or do you think they're still a bit away?
I think they're a bit away because I look at their schedule. Like, basically, they beat up on bad teams and they haven't really beat anybody good. Like, that Minnesota game, I think, was a fluke, and I still would take Minnesota over them. But Philly is just too complete. Like, Philly can literally go into any situation to win a game. Like, if it's a rough run game type, beat them up on both sides of the line, they can do that. If they got to go in a dome with Josh Allen and put up 50, they can do that. So I don't think many teams could play both of those styles of football really effectively in the playoffs like Philly can. And then also, like, they have a top 3 defense. So I don't think anybody has that combination of an offense that can play anyway. Both the offensive and defensive lines are top 3 in football, and the defense as a whole is top 3 in football. And you got an MVP quarterback. Like, show me a team that has all those things, and then I'll show you a team that's better than Philly.
Blaine, do you think the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl this year as constructed?
No, I do not. Why? Because they have the same issues last year that they have this year. They're still one of the most penalized teams in football. They've still shown this year on a couple of occasions that their game time management under McCarthy is still a problem. They still don't have that under control. And that's when it comes down to in the postseason. These games are not going to be blowouts, especially maybe you get one game that you might win, but relatively depends what you define convincingly, right? Like, maybe you win by a touchdown, 10 points. Like, it's not like you're going to go out and blow out a team. And right now with Dallas, you're going to have to go on the road pretty much the rest of the way. Like, I can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tampa Bay is not as good as what they were when they won that Super Bowl. But are you going to tell me right now, based off what you've seen with Tampa Bay, that like if Tom Brady has the ball with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter and they need a score to win the game, that you're not going to take Tom Brady every time? Like you're going into Raymond James Stadium. It's not like Tampa Bay's defense has been a egg this year. It's been the offense. But if their defense keeps them in the game and you give Tom Brady the ball down the stretch, I'm taking Tom Brady every time. Like, you can't convincingly tell me that Dallas is going to go into Tampa Bay and beat them. Like,
I wouldn't trust Dallas and Lambeau at all this year.
Right. Would I take Dallas as my pick? Yes. But I'm not going to say that, like, put myself on a limb and put my house on it. Right. And like, as JT mentioned, like, Philadelphia is the clear front runner in the NFC. Like, kudos to Minnesota. Like, they're having a great year. They're just winning the close games that they couldn't win last year. That's all it is. It's not like they're making a huge difference of how they've played last year. Their defense, their roster hasn't changed really at all from the Vikings perspective. They're just winning the tight game. Sure. And as a Washington fan, I am not trusting Kirk Cousins if my life depended on it ever. Yes, Marcus put his hand in his face because I got Washington into the show, but had to slide that in there as a Kirk Cousins.
There's no possible way. I literally put this show together. I was like, "There's no way we can get some Commanders."
Yes. Here we go. So happy. But you can go ahead now, Marcus.
Here's my thing with the Cowboys, because JT, you mentioned that the Cowboys are going to be on the road. I mean, the Cowboys have a shot at not playing on the road. They'd have to win the division, which is still up for grabs.
Boom. So your mic just gonna get cut off right now because you know that's not happening.
They can still win the division.
Look at Philly's schedule the rest of the way.
The Cowboys don't
if Philly gets through.
I didn't say a word
against the Giants,
when you started your Commanders nonsense. Listen, look, the Dallas Cowboys are 9-3. Sure. Okay. If all the Cowboys have to do is win the division. The Cowboys don't have a tough schedule the rest of the way. Excuse me. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, Philly can clinch a playoff spot this week, but this division is still up for grabs. And it's not just because of Dallas. It's also because the Giants are playing good football, and I guess the Commanders are playing good football.
Oh, there it is.
I guess the Commanders are playing good football too. But even if the Cowboys do go on the road, their first game would be against the Buccaneers, as you mentioned. And while
it's a bad matchup,
while you might not want to put the Cowboys while you might not want to pick the Cowboys against the Buccaneers, I would pick the Cowboys to beat the Buccaneers in a playoff game.
I would pick them, but I wouldn't make it a guarantee.
Why would you? So
it's not a convincing win.
Exactly. Why would you? It's basically you're picking Mike McCarthy over Tom Brady because that's what it's going to come down.
I'm not picking Mike McCarthy.
That's what that game is going to come down to if that's the matchup.
I would pick
versus Brady. That's exactly what it is.
I have much more faith this season based on what we've seen this season through almost 14 weeks of the season, through 13 weeks of the season. I have more faith in the Dallas Cowboys' defense being able to wreak havoc on Tampa Bay's offense than I do on Tampa Bay's defense being able to wreak havoc on Dallas's offense.
Look at what just happened in the Saints game. Nobody plays the Bucks and Brady better than the Saints defense.
The Saints
they still won.
The Saints suck this year, number one, and
their defense still good.
The Saints are a bad football team this season, number one. So I'm not going to look at
Allen's the Saints. Destined to be a defensive coordinator.
I'm not going to
be a head coach.
I'm not going to look. Excuse me. I'm not going to look at the Saints game from a couple nights ago and use that as the measuring stick for the Cowboys.
Oh, you saw what happened. You saw what happened.
That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, the Dallas Cowboys have almost 50 sacks on the season as a team. That's the number one. That's number one in the league, and they've only allowed 15, which is number one in the league as well. Like, this is a good football team on the two sides, in the two parts of defense where it matters most: pass rush and pass protection. I don't trust the Buccaneers defensively this season because they've been very inconsistently defensively this season. Dak Prescott's been playing good football since he's been back. CeeDee Lamb has answered the one question that no one thought he could answer: could CeeDee Lamb be a reliable number one receiver this year? Yes,
No.
he's been very reliable as number. He's been very reliable as number one receiver this season. Tony Pollard's been playing good football this season. Ezekiel has been actually playing, and to my surprise, I'll admit, to my surprise, Ezekiel has been playing good football as well. Michael Gallups played good football despite missing a couple games. Like, this is a good football team. This is a team that can go on the road in Tampa Bay and get the win. There's only two teams in the NFC right now that I look at and say, I don't think the Cowboys can beat them. That's the Eagles, that's the 49ers. And if you're not in Philly or if you're not in San Francisco, I think I would bet good money that the Cowboys can beat that team. Those are the only two teams I don't think the Cowboys can beat. I wouldn't be surprised if they do because the Cowboys are a good football team. To Blaine's point, they still lack the discipline because they're very penalized, and Mike McCarthy still can't manage the clock to save his life. But the Cowboys have been winning games, and the Cowboys have been putting themselves in positions offensively where those things haven't seemed to be an issue. Because even in the game when they beat down on the Colts, they still struggled to manage the clock. And
it's the Colts, man.
That's not the point, though. That game was close before they pulled away in the fourth quarter, and
they have the stepfather of the year as their coach. Like, it's the Colts, bro. Like, they're not good. This dude was on the couch like 4 weeks ago. Like, you're hanging your hat on this? Like, come on.
Jeff Saturday was doing what we were doing right now.
I look at the Dallas Cowboys and I see an offense that's one of the best offenses in football so far over the last 6 weeks since Dak been back. I look at arguably the best defense in football outside of Philadelphia, and I say this is a football team that can go on the road and win a playoff game. I get it look. I understand it's the Cowboys, and it's very easy to expect the Cowboys to not come up with anything and be a bad football team and just like suck all the way around. But the Dallas Cowboys have played good football. They have played good football.
I'm not discounting that. I would put them as the second best team in football right now. Probably
the Cowboys just put their foot in Minnesota's ass a couple weeks ago and held them.
Minnesota also put their foot in the Bills' ass.
Football team.
How are the Minnesota Vikings not a top 5 football team?
Oh my Lord. I would put all right. You want me to do my top 5 right now? You go Eagles 1. I'd put the Cowboys at 2, the Bills are 3, the Chiefs are 4, and the Bengals are at 5.
Blaine, you should answer that question. The same how you just asked that question, how are the Vikings not a top 5 team? The same reason that we don't have faith in the Packers when they get home field advantage. Is that division. It doesn't show me anything.
And yes, the Vikings beat the Bills because the Buffalo Bills decided to go for an interception, and Justin Jefferson made the play of his life when they should have learned how to bat the ball down like a normal football team. I've got a pet peeve because every football team is so trying to go for interceptions nowadays, statistically speaking. If they go for the pass breakup on the most important downs, they're winning football games. Justin Jefferson made the play of his life, and it's going to be the play of the year. But knocks the ball out of his hands if he actually not to try to make an interception.
As true as that may be, that means nothing to me because I didn't bring up the Vikings beating the Bills. JT did.
You did.
I didn't.
I did. But you no. But you were saying that the Cowboys beat the Vikings, and I was like, okay, that's one game. The Vikings beat the Bills.
No, they didn't just beat the Vikings. They destroyed the Vikings. They actually made the Vikings, who have been one of the better offenses in football this season, look absolutely dysfunctional. It's because of the defense. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whose offense has actually been dysfunctional, you're going to sit here and tell me that you don't have faith that one of the best defenses in football can do more than enough to keep the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense at bay? I don't care who their quarterback is. The Bucs offense this season has sucked. The Bucs O-line this season has sucked. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season, Tom Brady or not, have been a bad football team. They've been average at best in the record.
Who about to win the division, though?
The division's terrible. The division's terrible.
Hey, a win is a win, man.
That's fine. Okay, I watched the Commanders win the division 2 years ago at 7-9. That means the Commanders are a good football team?
Hey, no, you had to give them their respect at that time.
No, you didn't. They were a bad football team. Bad football teams don't get respect. I'm not giving the Bucs respect because they're going to win a bad division and they're a bad football team.
All right.
No,
to play devil's advocate with the Bucs being a bad football team, which they are, bad offensively, they haven't been blown out all year.
I didn't say the Cowboys are going to blow them out. I said the Cowboys are going to.
No, I'm talking about the Buccaneers right now. I'm talking about the Bucs. How you said the Bucs. I'm not going to lie to you. The Bucs are awful on the offense side of the ball, but their defense is so good that they're in every football game. And if you give Tom Brady the ball with a chance at the end of the game, I'm taking Tom Brady.
Whether the game is in Tampa Bay whether the game is in Dallas, the game could be on the moon. If the Buccaneers and the Cowboys are going head-to-head in a playoff game, I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys.
Y'all should make a bet on that. Get it on the record.
I bet or no bet, the Dallas Cowboys would beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a playoff game.
They're
the better football team.
That sounds like a bet to me, man. Go ahead and place that wager.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not a good football team. They're just not. How many times this season have the Dallas Cowboys defense had a complete meltdown? How many times did that happen? Because what it sounds like, Blaine, is what it sounds like you're saying is not only are you banking on the defense in Tampa Bay keeping them in the game, you would also have to be banking.
They're only giving up 17 points a game.
You would also have to be banking on the Dallas Cowboys defense just completely melting down because Tampa's offense isn't good. It would take a meltdown to lose that game.
I'm not saying it's going to be a meltdown. I'm saying the game's going to be like 19-16, and Tom Brady's going to have the ball at his hands at the end. I'm taking Tom Brady. I'm not saying that I would pick the Dallas Cowboys to win the game. That's what I'm trying to say. But if Tom Brady has the ball at the end, I'm taking Tom Brady. There's two different alternatives here. I'm saying I'm taking the Cowboys to win, but it's not going to be, I'm going to be like harping on it that the Cowboys are going to make it to the Super Bowl.
Marcus, I know you very young, but I just want to say this. It's Tom Brady. I know you young. You're not used to prime Tom Brady, but it's still Tom Brady.
I've lived all of Tom Brady's career.
You're not acting like it.
No, we have to stop doing. No, we have to stop doing this thing where.
So are you telling me if Tom Brady, if let's all right, Dallas and Tampa Bay are playing, right? This is what the most logical matchup is going to be. Tom Brady has the ball with 4 minutes to go. They need a touchdown to win. Are you saying the Dallas Cowboys are winning that game then?
I would, if I pick the Cowboys to win the game, I pick the Cowboys to win the game no matter what happens. You can throw whatever scenario out there you want. If everyone shows up to the game healthy, and you're giving me a healthy Cowboys team versus a healthy Buccaneers team, and you're asking me to make a pick, I'm going to pick the better football team. And the better football team is the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care that Tom Brady's the quarterback. Like, I get it. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's now got more fourth quarter comebacks and more game-winning drives than anyone in the history of the game. A lot of it has to do with the fact he's been playing the game longer than anyone's ever played. That's fine. He's also great at what he does. I get it. But you are sitting here and you're acting like this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, who's held teams to averaging 17 points, has played how many offenses this season have the Bucs played that are the caliber of offense that the Dallas Cowboys are? Not many.
They played the Cowboys week 1.
Okay, they played the Cowboys week 1, and the Cowboys didn't play good football. Fine. You know who else didn't play good football in that game?
The Tampa Bay Bucs didn't play good football that night either.
Also didn't play good football in that game. What was the score of that game, Blaine Spencer? Did the Cowboys score more than 17 points in that game week 1? I think they did. They did.
Hold on, let me pull it up right now. I can answer your question right now as I pull it up.
Like that, actually.
The only time that Tampa Bay's defense has given up over 21 points is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Now you're moving the goalpost. That wasn't the question. The question I asked was, what was the score of
19 to 3. The Cowboys got a freaking field goal. That's it.
That's fine. Do you know why it was 19-3? Because Dak Prescott got hurt. So
Dak Prescott played that whole game.
He didn't play that whole game.
No, that's the game where he broke his finger.
That's the game where that's the game where he hurt his finger. He did not play that whole game. Thank you. He didn't play that whole game.
I mean, he still wasn't playing.
He didn't play the whole game. He wasn't playing well. That's fine, but he didn't play the whole game. The fact of the matter is,
all right, you're right. I'm wrong. I see. I'm looking at the stats right now. I will admit when I'm wrong.
Because the bar that you set is 17 points a game. How many times this season have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers allowed more than 17 points this game, and who are those offenses that they played against?
All right, you ready? Here we go.
While he's looking it up, I gotta know: Are you a Cowboys fan now? Because you don't even go this hard for the Packers.
I'm not a Cowboys fan.
Steelers scored 20.
Is that a Dak jersey you got on? I see it's white.
21. Baltimore scored 27.
So wait, you said the Steelers scored 20.
20. Scored a
Panthers scored 21. And then Baker Mayfield was the quarterback.
No, that's wrong. PJ Walker was quarterback.
That's even worse, actually.
And PJ Walker is pretty good now. Come on,
I do. I'm a fan of PJ Walker.
And the Kansas City Chiefs put up 41.
The Chiefs put 41. There was another team you said before after
Baltimore. Baltimore put up over 21.
So Baltimore's offense hasn't been good this season. Neither has the Panthers' offense, and neither has the Steelers' offense. And you're telling me that the Cowboys' offense wouldn't be able to muster up at least 21 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? That's all it takes. That's all it would take is at least 21 points because by your metrics, the defense allows only 17 points a game. All I'm saying is the Dallas Cowboys are a good football team. And to sit here and just pretend like that's not the case because Tom Brady's the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think it's quite absurd.
I've never said that the Cowboys aren't a good football team.
I understand that it's Tom Brady, but you're acting like Tom Brady is the end-all, be-all, and because it's Tom Brady, the Cowboys are going to lose.
I see. That's where you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. If I had to make a pick, I would pick the Dallas Cowboys. However, I am taking Tom Brady if Tom Brady has the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
And my response to that has been, I'm not taking Tom Brady against what has been one of the best defenses in football this season. I don't care who he is or how much time was left on the clock.
Hey man, I say y'all just make a bet, man. Y'all make a bet.
Bet, no bet. It doesn't matter to me.
Come on, man.
Cowboys play the
ball. Come on, you've been saying Dak or bust with your whole chest, man. Come on, continue to do it. He game, man. Hey, look. It's an easy bet for you. If Dallas wins, you win.
What do you want to put on?
The only way he wins is if Brady has the ball at the end of the game and they win that.
Yeah, you're winning this bet either way.
That's easy money. Go ahead and take that, man.
Blaine,
you got promotions.
You wager, Marcus. You wager.
Take that bet.
I know you got the promotion up to the 5th floor, didn't you? Not you've been saying about it.
I got the promotion from.
Man, you got a polo hat on now. You got a polo hat on. I know you got the cash. Take the money. So you got the money. Take the bet.
I didn't
buy
this.
So hold on. Here's the bet.
I took this hat for my.
Dallas wins. You win. The only way that he can win the bet is if Brady wins on the final drive. That's easy.
I want
to. If you took this to Vegas right now, your odds
are going to be terrible. Just because you're a Commanders fan, I kind of want to see you in a Dak jersey, Blaine. Actually.
All right.
I do actually want to see you in a Dak jersey. Just because you're a Commanders fan. And I know that'll make your blood.
Ladies and gentlemen, Go Talk has turned into a betting podcast. You see, he's evolving. You see what's happening here?
I make bets. I put parlays in every other Sunday.
Okay, so then what I'm trying to think now, what am I going to have you wear? Is the real question. Wait, are you telling me that do I have to buy a Dak Prescott jersey then?
Do you own a Dak Prescott jersey?
Who owns one of those?
No, then you would have to buy a Dak Prescott jersey.
I'm gonna have to rent one and then return that shit after.
Buy.
It'll be on the sales rack. Like the Heineke jersey.
Ooh, I like that Heineke jersey situation.
I don't have a problem with Taylor Heineke. That's fine.
If you can find one,
I'm trying to think.
What
else tortures you?
Taylor Heineke doesn't torture me, dude.
No, that's what I mean. You're a Packers guy, so I feel like a Detroit Jared Goff jersey would ruin your life.
Okay. That's fine. Jared Goff's been playing good ball. I've enjoyed watching the Lions play football so far the last 2 years. I don't mind.
That doesn't make me feel any better. Like, gosh darn it.
No, I don't have. There's nothing you can think. There's nothing you can say that's going to torture me necessarily. Just what do you want to see me wear as a Packers fan? I don't care. You put it out there. I'll wear it.
The Jordan Love jersey.
Okay, that's a Packers jersey. I don't mind.
I know. I
just know that you, as a Commanders fan, it goes against your religion to put on.
Oh, it goes exactly against my religion.
I know that. So it's really easy.
Any Cowboys jersey would be sickening, honestly.
That's fine. So. I should make you get a Micah jersey, but since we're talking Dak, I'll make you buy a Dak Prescott jersey. That's fine. That's fine. That goes against your religion. Is what it is. You come up.
I'll go with the Tom. Well, you know what? Since we're speaking Tom, you got to get a Tom Tampa jersey.
I'm gonna wear wow. I'm gonna get a Tampa Bay. That's fine. A Tampa Bay.
The GOAT made him nervous. See, he's nervous now.
He's not. I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
We're speaking Tom because that's part of the bet is that I'm taking Tom Brady.
Tom got you speaking in tongues, bro.
You got it. You're putting Tom on.
You need to wear a Tom Brady jersey. I'll wear a Tom Brady jersey. That ain't no problem. Right. I'll come on your show with the Tom Brady jersey and I'll apologize. And you can come on my show with the Dak Prescott jersey and apologize. That's fine. Well,
I'll even wear it onto my show and cry, so that's fine.
You can do both. That's fine with me. I'd love to see Blaine cry in a Dak Prescott jersey. That's all I really need for Christmas, if we're being honest. Anyway, there's not much else to talk about. It's been a great show. I always appreciate having you guys on the show. Wish Don was here because I know Don likes getting JT riled up, but that's really why I like having JT and Don on the show, to get JT riled up.
So you like Don here so y'all can gang up. See, come on, man. We gotta fight one-on-one first before you go get back up now.
I haven't seen you in a hot minute, but like ever since like Don made that hot take on my show, like I haven't. I mean, there's an APB out from after that Colts take. You know what I
I
mean?
tried
Like,
to tell him. I tried to tell him, man. Come on, the Colts. we knew what it was. I mean, the Jags, whatever.
the
But the
Jags are
Colts,
still bad, but like the Colts are just an absolute train wreck.
yeah, dumpster fire. I was just a year early on the Jags, but Colts, this is forever. This is bad.
You know, the Colts are god awful. The Colts are god awful. Well, Blaine and JT, you guys everybody know where they can find you and all your content.
I'll go first. You can catch me on Instagram and TikTok, the final dot whistle, as well as Facebook, Final Whistle Sports Pod. We are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. We're pretty much on it. Just released an episode yesterday with my main man, Joe Ciccoletti. We talked some NFL talk as well as a little bit of Tiger golf type stuff. Marcus, I appreciate you letting me back on. I've earned the privilege to get my monthly appearance. Hopefully I earned now since we placed a bet, I've now earned another monthly appearance for January, so that's nice. But appreciate you as always. If you guys haven't yet, go please subscribe to JT and the Don. Go subscribe to Go Talk with Marcus. These fellas do great work. I mean, I'm privileged to be able to join these two guys on their shows. So
Yeah, thanks. It's JT and the Don All Sports Podcast. You can find our show basically anywhere you listen to all your podcasts. So if you can't find us, that's on you. Leave us a 5-star review, of course, and follow us on all social media platforms: IG, TikTok, Twitter, so everywhere. And for real, follow these guys. These are some talented dudes. Like, trust me, they got me getting into an argument with my significant other where I could be on a Friday night on this show meeting with them to talk about Dak Prescott beating Tom Brady. So that should tell you why you should listen to this show and how talented they are. But seriously, go check these guys out. They do really good work, and it's great listens. But yeah, JT and the Don All Sports Podcast. Just look it up anywhere, and you'll be able to find us.
It's always a pleasure to have these guys on the show. You guys know where to find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Go Talk with Marcus. YouTube specifically. Listen, at the beginning of the year, I said we were going to hit 150 subscribers. We're at 137 right now. So I just need 13 more people. If you're listening or watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button so we can hit our goal of 150 before the end of the year. There are only 22 days left in 2022, which is a crazy thing to think about because I could have sworn it was just September 3 days ago. But
you can say that, but Tom Brady had you saying something different. I like how you did that tongue twister. That's another reason why you should listen to the show. This dude's talented. You saw how he said 2/2/2022. That is GOAT talk. That's GOAT stuff. That is GOAT stuff.
JT's always JT's always got to get that last dig in before we go. It's been a great 90 minutes. We also double dipped this week. So if you guys haven't already seen the episode I did this past Wednesday with TV on basketball and my guy Jalen Dix at the Knockdown J, please go ahead over there to YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those great places to listen to that as well. And we'll be right back here next week with an episode of The Rundown. Peyton's busy with finals and things like that this week, so we didn't have an episode of The Rundown. We'll be back next week with an episode of The Rundown. And of course, we'll be right back here next week with the Go Talk on Marcus. So thank you guys for watching. For Blaine Spencer and JT of the Dawn, this is Marcus of Go Talk Marcus signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your lives.